Wir starten jetzt mit der Creatables-Konferenz.
Juhu, Creatables!
Oh. Unser Dank gilt dem Wirtschaftsministerium Baden-Württemberg für die Unterstützung hierfür. In dem heutigen Nachmittag werden wir mit der Creatables ein Nachhaltigkeitsziel vor allen Dingen in den Fokus rücken, und zwar das Nachhaltigkeitsziel Nummer 3, Gesundheit und Wohlbefinden. Wir werden uns anschauen, wie mithilfe von Games, User Experience und interdisziplinären Innovationen der Bereich Gesundheit und Wohlbefinden unterstützt und weiter befördert werden kann. Steffen, haben wir jetzt nicht eine Umfrage gemacht oder hast du da nicht irgendwelche Informationen dazu?
Wir haben tatsächlich also auch für Leute, die jetzt hier online oder im Raum auch neu dazukommen, wir haben ein Slido, das ihr über den Stream direkt rechts seht, und haben da was vorbereitet, ein Live-Poll. Und zwar werde ich das jetzt selber mal starten, nämlich wir würden uns nämlich dafür interessieren, wie ihr selber Nachhaltigkeit hinsichtlich Gesundheit und Wohlergehen in euren Alltag integriert. Ganz doof. Wir befinden uns in einer pandemischen Situation. Covid-19 als infektiöse Erkrankung ist sozusagen auch Teil dieses Nachhaltigkeitsziels. Da steht ganz effektiv drin, die Verminderung der Übertragung von solchen communicable diseases, auf Englisch, übertragbarer Krankheiten. Und insofern betrifft uns das Thema, und man kann auch einfach sagen, wenn man so eine Umfrage macht, wir haben ja vorhin auch schon mal gefragt, was ist euch so das wichtigste Ziel, dann ist Gesundheit und Wohlergehen Nummer 1, ganz klar.
Super.
Wen wundert's?
Ja.
Wen
In Zeiten wie diesen wundert es keinen eigentlich.
So ist es, ja.
Ich freue mich dann, dass wir den ersten Keynote-Speaker zur Creatables begrüßen dürfen, Charles Johnson. Charles arbeitet seit mehr als 3 Jahrzehnten im Kontext von Sport, Mode und aktiven Lifestyle-Produkten für führende globale Marken. Er ist Produktdesigner, hat jahrelang bei Puma auch die Verantwortung für Connected Products gehabt, und in jüngerer Zeit war auch die treibende Kraft hinter Produktinitiativen, die zwischen E-Sport, Gaming und Produkten was gemacht haben, was entwickelt haben in der Richtung?
Charles hat da 2, finde ich, super wesentliche Anknüpfungspunkte auch an uns, als einerseits Bizplay und andererseits auch Creatables. Unsere Idee ist, Games und andere Kreativmedien können neue Narrative erzählen und können einfach auch Leute bewegen, und wir können damit auch mit Unternehmen gemeinsam interessante Dinge tun. Das hat Charles vorexerziert, unter anderem mit einer Kooperation mit Playseat, sein Sitzmöbel, sozusagen für Gamer, damit die nicht nur einfach platt vor der Konsole sitzen, sondern sich bewegen. Und gleichzeitig macht er eben auch Lifestyle, Fashion letztendlich, und hat damit sozusagen 2 ganz interessante Zugänge und schaut sich das Ganze aber durch die Linse der Nachhaltigkeit ein. Und insofern ist er hervorragend geeignet, wenn ich das so sagen darf. Ich bin biased, wir haben ihn ja eingeladen, darüber zu sprechen, und finde es ganz besonders, wie er das macht und wie viel unglaublichen Reach er auch hat. Das muss man sich auch klar machen. Ne? Einerseits in die Gaming-Community und andererseits eben auch eine Fashion-Community. Das ist schon stark, finde ich.
Ja, Wahnsinn. Charles, the floor is yours. Yeah. Design for humanistic values. Wir sind alle sehr gespannt. We are very curious and looking forward to your insights.
Danke, und ich auch. Hey, Steffen, I don't know if you curated this intentionally, but there was something that Trista said in her presentation around what motivates us, and that's we should be motivated by bringing back humanity and saving humanity. Yeah. And that's, of course, a very great, a really good transition into what I'm going to talk about today. So thank you, first of all, for inviting me, and I'm really happy to be a part of the Creatables community. When I met Steffen, actually, I saw something about Creatables online, and I thought creativity and sustainability, that's me. And so, Steffen and I connected, and we had some really good energy between the two of us. Thank you very much for bringing me here. And I do think that what I have to share with you is very fitting to the topic. So first of all, I'll get right into it. I know that we're limited for time a bit, but what do humanistic values and humanistic design have to do with sustainability? Well, I'm in the process of figuring out. Yes, I've done some work in it, but it will be a continuous journey for myself. And I believe that if we get things right, when it comes to environment and fighting climate change, we have to recover our human values. Human values should motivate us, not only the bottom line. And so therefore, it's my objective as a designer to bring human values back to design and to shape products and experiences that have a positive impact on health and on world balance. And what we do as designers and developers of technology, that plays a really important role. So let's move on to, I'm now on slide 3, which is, I'm talking about I'm going to share with you my transformation. Now, I've gone through a bit of a transformation in crystallizing my belief in what I just spoke about. And these are some of the things that have influenced me recently. Next slide. So 3 years ago, I came across the Copenhagen letter. And it was a call to arms to designers, creative people, to embrace the power that we have for good. And it called for a commitment to do so, to move from human-centered design human-centered design to humanity-centered design. And I signed the letter. And it inspired me in the work that I was doing at Puma to invest more in this space. Next slide. Another influencer was COVID-19, which of course I'm not alone in causing reflection. Yeah. So for the first few months of the lockdown, it forced a certain reflection, and that reflection was about what are we. I was struck that in our business, the sports industry, my business, that we were focused on getting back to normal as quickly as possible and normal life. And I asked myself, well, what is that really? And I questioned, what am I supposed to be doing? What impact should I have? And what impact can I make? Maybe the answer is more than doing sneakers and t-shirts. I was influenced, obviously. Next slide. And of course, the police murder of George Floyd, also, and the proliferation of the Black Lives Matter protests around the world, it also renewed a certain consciousness around race and race matters. Even my own consciousness, somebody who's lived with racism I've lived with it all of my life. And I was really moved by the demonstrations all over the world and all over Germany, here in Nuremberg. And it inspired me to think even more deeply about what I can do to promote inclusivity, to be more humanistic in my approach to the work that I do. Next slide. Okay, so this is not as much of a, I'm on, let's see, slide 7, if you will. One slide back. This is not as much of a transformation as it is a core belief that I really believe that we can make the world a better place through design. And these days, I think of myself as a humanistic design. Sorry, we're on, if you could advance 2 more slides. Yeah, perfect, wonderful. One more, one more. Great. So these days I think of myself as a humanistic designer. And that is, again, putting humanity at the center of the work that I do. And it's a challenge I've accepted for myself. Now, I stepped into this world through the work I've done in recent years as Global Director of Innovation at Puma, but I'm stepping it up a notch. And that means that I will be guided primarily, if not wholly, by that focus and that passion. So let's see. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to share with you a bit on my website. I'm going to talk to you, or you can learn more about what it is that, my philosophy and the work that I intend to do moving forward. But just to give you a little soundbite or a little view on what that is, a couple of things. I've defined my commitment to humanistic design. And the first value, or the first value in my manifesto, is the idea of design is a thinking sport, right? That means it can influence many things, not just objects. And I will look for all the ways that design can influence the work that I do for others. My work will be directed towards making the world a better place. Again, I think we're in a unique position and have a lot of power to do that as designers. And that the work that I do is good for my home, our home, the environment. That's essential for humanity. Next slide. So I would like to share with you some of the work that I've done that lives up to this commitment and to these values. And the first project that I want to share with you emerged from, next slide, a partnership between Puma and Puma Innovation and the MIT Design Lab. Now, this was a partnership that spanned 3 years long, and it was a research relationship. That is, we briefed the design lab on specific projects in sport performance, but they also introduced us to new fields of research and to technology. And one of those topics was biodesign. And, you know, the word was interesting. I immediately reacted. I thought, this sounds great. Now tell me, what is it? And what I learned was that it's using nature as a design tool, as a way to shape products and experiences. Now, what we did with the design lab was we did a number of workshops that came to develop some areas of exploration, which set us apart as a leader in this space. And I think you'll see some of that work, what that means. So the first project that we did conceptual explorations, right? We created ideas, we sampled things, we built models and prototypes. One of them was we decided to focus on bacteria as a means, as an ingredient in a product, good bacteria. And that bacteria we decided could bring functional qualities to products. For example, this insole could respond to the chemistry in your body and tell you things about your performance. Very, very interesting. Next slide. The next project was a shoe. We called it the breathing shoe, and it incorporated bacteria into the upper part of the shoe to adapt to your needs when it came to ventilation. So it also allowed, what was really interesting here, it allowed the user to participate in that last step of manufacturing. You know, a different way to think about manufacturing and think about customization in your product. Next slide. This is another, these were, what you're looking at on the screen are these stickers that were transferable. You could put them on different garments. And what that sticker could do was tell you give you a sense of understanding of the air quality. For example, if you're running in an urban environment, it gives you an understanding of what the quality of air is. Is this a good day to run, or is this not a good day to run? Next slide. And another experiment, this was the idea of biodegradable packaging. So packaging that emerges or fades into the environment. So we had a really interesting group of projects here that we shared, and we had an exhibit at Milan Design Week. Some of you may be familiar with Milan Design Week. Yep, that's right, next slide. It was a modest installation where we showcased the different projects. Next slide, you can see here, we had some really good traffic, really good interest. Next slide. Press got some interest, was interested in it as well. So it was really an exciting move for us. And because we got such great reception and attention, we were invited to participate in the Digital Nature exhibit at the Munich airport, which was super exciting. These next few slides share that. So, you know, again, we got some good attention and we decided we were on a good path here. Now, in 2019, the following year, we decided to focus on one concept. And the goal was to bring the concept a step closer to reality. And that was the breathing shoe. Now, how did we do that? Next slide. We worked with the Fraunhofer Institute to develop the bacteria for real. So we needed to make sure that what we wanted the bacteria to do, we could actually do it. So that was another, you know, step towards realization. We again exhibited at Milan Design Week, and we called that exhibit Bioevolution. So we were evolving our ideas in biodesign. And again, we displayed the different concepts and got some really good interaction and, you know, great feedback, continued feedback. And what you're seeing here is another level of realness. Those Petri dishes are the bacteria is actually growing that the Fraunhofer developed. So we're getting a step closer to realization. In 2020, we made plans once again to exhibit at Milan Design Week, but what we wanted to do it in a bigger way. We had planned to exhibit in a much bigger space with more interaction. And unfortunately, with COVID, we had to dial it back and we created a virtual experience. And what we did was, on the theme of biodesign, we worked with 2 external partners who were as committed as we were to realizing the potential for biodesign. And we called the exhibit Design to Fade. And these are concepts which come from nature and also merge with nature rather than assault it. And again, you'll see another level of realization. So what we started with, when we identified the partners, we started with a manifesto. And that was with biodesign. It covered 3 topics, which I won't go into detail, but in general, it was to use biodesign to mitigate the mistakes we have made with our planet. We also were keen on making globalization a reality, and then also fast forward as we can to zero waste. Now, the first example that I want to share with you is Living Color. And Living Color is a partnership out of Rotterdam, and they're driven to create beauty in fashion without harming the environment. But they're really the best people to describe what they do, and so I'll run a brief video here. Play on.
Living Color is a fresh new approach to dyeing textiles. Together we want to bring natural color to the world, and we do so by using bacteria that produce pigment.
My name is Ilva. I am a fashion designer based in Rotterdam.
My name is Lara Lichtman and I am a textile designer.
There are a lot of microorganisms in the world and they can produce beautiful colors.
Designing with living organisms asks for a completely different approach.
We want to create beautiful textiles, of course, but we don't want to harm the environment with it.
It also takes a lot of experimenting, trial and error, because working with living things takes time also. We see it as a collaboration with the organism, and we really like to learn from it as well.
Every time when we are dyeing the textile, it has a different outcome. We always have like really one-of-a-kind pieces. They are choosing their own path or their own way, how they want to grow.
For us as fashion and textile designers, it's really special that we work in a laboratory. We had to learn everything from scratch because we don't have a scientific background. But now, after a couple of years working with scientists and students, we really feel at home in the lab.
We are always like really clean and tidy. Yeah. They learn us everything, how we need to work in a sterile environment.
And we have to do it safe every time, so we cannot just leave it messy or no. And basically what it is the bacteria eat something, they eat a nutrient, and they metabolize that nutrient into a pigment. And that is how the bacteria make the pigment. And that pigment we use to dye textiles.
In the process, when they are growing,
they extrude the pigment. Like we eat something and we poo, they poo pigment. That's basically it. Don't use that one.
That's a funny thing, actually.
With the bacterial pigment, we can dye almost any fiber. We first tried natural fibers like cotton, wool, hemp, silk. But later on, we also dyed synthetic fibers, and that's very unusual because normally when you use natural colors, they don't really attach to synthetic fibers. So that's really amazing. For this project, we started with a concept development together with the Puma innovation team.
What we did, we made a selection of some iconic looks Puma is using, like for example the T7 jacket, and then we deconstructed and make something new out of it.
Puma really understands that there's a future where a lot of new things are possible. Together we can create a beautiful, tangible narrative and we can raise consumer awareness. I think now we're at a point that we know it's possible and we really see a future where our clothes are dyed with bacterial pigments.
Wonderful. I really love this story. The process that Living Color uses no hazardous chemicals, and it uses less water and less energy. And you can see in this next slide just how beautiful the products are. Really groundbreaking in terms of how to finish products. Next up, I want to share with you a partner called Streamateria, and they're out of Stockholm, Sweden. And again, we'll look at another video because they're best at telling the details about the work they do. So let's have a look.
Streamateria is a textile-like material that is compostable, that it has a short lifespan and that can be experienced rather than owned. Our ambition with Streamateria is to create clothes that you can temporarily produce and manufacture, but you cannot keep them because they are based on the same idea as the forest.
Looking at the forest, it will produce a leaf. The leaf will fall, it will disintegrate, it will become nutrients to another party, and further along the line it will become a tree again. So we need to work with materials that can give you this textile-like garment experience, but that can also close the loop as fast as the forest, or even faster.
The idea of constructing the material in this way came actually from a disintegrating leaf that we found in the street. You know, when you see an old leaf that is gone dry and the tissue is falling apart and it just has the small veins left. Right now we're doing a collab with Puma Innovation where we are exploring the possibilities of creating a Puma designed running singlet with Streamateria material and our process.
When we create our garments, we create something we call the mesh. We actually print it. We use a starch-based filament for making these meshes. Meshes are like veins in a leaf. So we make a skeleton, so to speak, and then we use a bioplastic that has different components. Some from forest and some from other parts of food industry. Once we've done the mesh, which is still two-dimensional, we take it out from the printer, and then in the foaming setup, we apply a bioplastic foam. These two together create a textile-like garment tissue. And the last stage is to weld these together, and we weld it with heat, because our materials can be melted. If you look at the leaf, the veins in the leaf will decide what kind of shape it has. We'll do the same thing, but for garments. The mesh will decide that part of the performative experience, and then we will make a bioplastic that gives you the actual skin experience, and even can have added functions, what we call biofunctions.
The garment contains glycerol, an alcohol that absorbs water and sweat on the body. We are exploring the possibilities of creating a thermoregulating function that cools the runner. So it's all about performance, the performance of the garment. If you can't keep it in the wardrobe, what benefits can you as a consumer get from the garment?
In Puma comes a hard case with actual runners in running tops and running shorts. So we've had to address issues with how do we make these performance clothes function? And that's accelerated the innovation process for us.
Puma Innovation have contributed to this collaboration, of course, with the design expertise and their brand knowledge and their innovative skills. But for us, or for me personally, mostly with their strong visionary beliefs and their boldness in how to transform the society or the business towards a renewable one. If we are to be a renewable society, we need to implement time in our products eventually. It's not really a necessity that it has to have a short life. It's rather that we need to look upon it that it could have. And if you see how the forest works, an oak tree can live for 1,000 years and a small insect for a day. It's not up to the oak tree nor the insect to decide how long it may live. It's up to the ecosystem of the forest. This is pretty simple, really. Instead of keeping your clothes in your wardrobe, you can just pick up your phone and order them pretty much as you order food to be printed, and then you can pick them up at the print store, or you can get them delivered to wherever you are. You can wear your garments whenever you want to wear them, and once you're done with them, you just put them in the food compost to become energy, not waste.
That's a really beautiful story and expression of what is possible with biodesign. And, you know, Streamateria has really broken great ground in creating this methodology of creating a product. And we've been along for the ride, of course, and benefiting from it as well. The idea is they came at it more from the fashion side, and we challenged them to build a performance product, which, you know, really put some new constraints on what the technology had to achieve. So again, a really wonderful expression of biodesign. There's one other concept that I want to share with you from another partner out of Sweden called Adekak. And its beauty and effectiveness is in its simplicity. And the best things usually are that way. So one more short video to share. Roll tape. So again, a really simple approach that with a lot of value. One of the things that tickles me about that video is Adekak used sewing machine sound, sampled sewing machines and scissors cutting for the soundtrack. Okay, so with that in mind, all of what I shared with you, I believe that, you know, this era's biggest opportunity is in fact designing for humanity. And it's a challenge that I'm accepting for myself, and it's a challenge that I put before you as well. And last slide here, you know, these are really big topics to embrace and to take on, and you might be asking yourself, what can I do? And I have 3 suggestions. One is that to think dimensionally. Whatever problem it is that you're solving now, today, understand that there are many more dimensions than whatever you thought it was so far. You have to endeavor to understand all that it is. Whatever you put in it so far, there's something more. There's another dimension or dimensions. And be willing to look for it and know that you can expand on the dimensionality of the problem you're trying to solve. 2 is consider the global impact. Consider the potential for the global humanistic impact of the solution you're designing. You might think, for example, that you're designing to solve an environmental issue, but think also about how you can have an impact on racial justice or economic stability. Every solution has a knock-on effect. Make them positive ones. And lastly, find ways to add humanity into what and how you design. And you can do that by stepping into the spaces and places of others. It's called empathy. Understand how they could be impacted by what you design. And with that, I thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Charles. That was very impressive. Unfortunately, we are running out of time a little bit, so we have to hurry on. But I learned that there is a question for you in the chat. Maybe you can answer it there. That would be fab. Okay.
Great. I will have a look and do so.
Thank you for joining us, Charles, and we go on with our program. Thank you very much.
Great. I'll be tuning in. Thank you very much as well.